Hello, hello, wherever you are in the world. My name is Agnes van Rhijn. I am a life and business reinvention mentor at Success on Your Own Terms and the founder of the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show. I work with people who are stuck at crossroads and I help them step into the driver's seat of their life so that they can reinvent it. Today, it is my great privilege to be interviewing someone dear to my heart, Junie Moon Schreiber. And Junie is helping people create a life that is passionate, authentic, and fulfilling by teaching them how to turn down the volume on their inner critic, which allows them the freedom to do whatever they dream possible. For over 25 years, she has been in service to others in their healing and empowerment. Junie absolutely adores seeing people embrace life fully, bringing them better jobs, healthier relationships, and massive joy. Her clients step powerfully into their soul purpose with grace and ease. Welcome to the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show. How are you, Junie?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. As you introduce yourself and tell me about who I am, I'm like, look what we're doing. It's so exciting.
Yeah, we have been in touch for quite a while now, and I must say that I have always really appreciated our conversations, and I know about the amazing work you do. But before talking about your work, I would love it if you could share with the listeners about your journey. How did it all start for you? What happened?
Well, we've all had our journeys, right? And how I look at it, my journey, everyone's journey, we're born with such potential. We're born with every possibility. And so when I was born, I've always had a happy-go-lucky kind of a big bubbly personality. That's just me, But then life happened and I had experiences that shaped me. Like I was very bullied from 8, 9 years old on, until high school. So, I got messages about myself, unconsciously. I started having this understanding of how I am in relationship to others, that I'm getting these messages, something's wrong with me, that I don't fit in. And I was terrified of going to school, terrified of just being me. Because if I was me, if I raised my hand in class, if I said the right answer, God forbid I said the right answer, people would judge me, people would, snicker or make comments, and it just, my heart would be in my stomach. So that was one piece of the puzzle when I was growing up that shaped me significantly. And then I had well-meaning parents, like we all do, that do the best they can.
Of course.
I had loving parents, and I got messages from them that, if I'm not a certain way, I'll disappoint them. Actually, they put me on a very high pedestal. They saw my light and they loved me so much. And the funny thing is I was so terrified that if I wasn't perfect, like they thought I was, that I would lose their love. And sometimes my mom, and I always say my mom is like one of my closest friends, and I love her so much. We have such a beautiful relationship now. Way back then, that I would get a look from her, just a look, and in that look, I was so scared that
makes you shrink.
Yes, I would screw it up. I would shrink. I'd get small because, oh my God, I didn't do something the way she wanted me to do, or I fell short in some way. So, this was kind of the mapping of my life. And then my dad died when I was 14. And that was a big piece to my puzzle of how am I going to survive? My one rock in the world that held me and loved me so deeply was gone. And so these were things that influenced my comfort level inside, having to be a certain way, feeling like if I'm not a certain way, that I'm going to disappoint and people aren't going to love me, or that I didn't fit in, that if I'm just the way I am, people are going to criticize me and judge me. So I ended up using food as my drug of choice, and I'd go up and down the scale, many pounds, and just played it small. I did the best I could, but inside I was struggling. I had this big inner critic that just rah, 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 you know, constantly telling me, be careful, you know, you're not good enough, you know, who do you think you are? You can't do this. Other people are so much better than you. Don't even try. You know, all the different voices in my head. And
Junie, if I may interrupt you, question, because obviously what you're describing is something that most of us are experiencing as well. I mean, you know, the not thinking that we're not good enough for our parents, the people around us, etc. Is the way you describe it today, is that a sense that you already had then consciously, or is it something that you're observing now with the knowledge you have now as an adult?
That's such a great question, because I talk about the conscious and unconscious a lot. You know, back then it was more of a feeling inside.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like I was identifying these thoughts. It was just anxious, tight, fearful, wanting to hide, sickness, headaches, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And now, you know, I mean, the voices in my head are very low, but now with my understanding of it, I can see why I was the way I was, how I acted in the name of survival and fitting in. But yeah, now it's a much different way of looking at it. And that's what I offer to the people I work with, is that understanding, is that perspective, but then also the transformational shifting that we can do now by bringing it to the conscious level. Mm-hmm. So yes, absolutely. Very different back then. Because as we're children, we don't have these tools.
No, exactly. That's why I was wondering. And so,
yeah.
So what happened afterwards? And then,
you know, lots of suffering. Yeah, you're like, this is a good movie. What happens next? We just paused the movie, the Junie movie. You know, I was 200 pounds 12 years ago. I was miserable. My brain was just on fire with all these thoughts, and I couldn't relax. I was lashing out at my husband. I was uncomfortable just living, you know, and it was a journey. I mean, with therapy and self-help books and workshops, but frankly, I just hit bottom, and it was okay. I if I'm going to continue this life, I don't want it to be like this. And so I started the deep searching for transformational work, which led me to the work I do today, which most of the work I do is shadow work.
So again, at that moment, a conscious choice you made? I've had it. I need to step out of this, or is it, you know, life bringing in circumstances, workshops, whatever, and you know, you happen to roll into it, or did you really choose to step out of that?
I would say it's a yes and to that question. Yes, there was a very profound moment in my life. Yeah. That many years ago, when my son was 2.5 years old, and he was doing his tantrum thing, and he was in his craziness, and I remember just feeling so out of control, so tight, and I was like, I am not comfortable. How am I going to parent this child when I can't manage my own feelings? I need help. So that was a very defining moment. Yep. And the defining moment of, I'm 200 pounds. I'm in pain, physically and emotionally. My life is a mess. I must do something differently than what I'm doing now. Another diet isn't going to do it. And yes, there are different things that come along the way, different workshops, different books, different moments in life that have led me. So it's a yes and, as I continue to dance with what shows up in my life.
At the same time, there may be also a piece in it of, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher shows up. So maybe that before those things were on your way as well, but you didn't see them because you weren't ready to see them. Could that have been the case?
I love you, Agnes. It's like you and I, we have such a similar, you know, mindset in how we view the world. Absolutely. And that actually brings me so much peace to this day, knowing that my belief that things are unfolding perfectly in the time they're meant to unfold. Everything that's happened in my life, even if it was painful and horrible. I mean, I was just talking about this with someone yesterday, that when my dad died, it was horrible. I mean, I was left with such fear of how am I going to get through? How am I going to survive? Now, I'm not thankful that I lost my dad.
No.
I mean, I would bring him back in a heartbeat. but I have some gratitude for some of the things that have happened in my life, everything, because each piece is a puzzle to create the life that I have now. So yes, when I'm ready, I believe things show up. And if I'm aware, if I stay awake to this interesting universe that I live in, I get lots of clues about what's next for me. If it's like a game to me. It really is like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't notice that before. Let me follow that path. That might be something fun or interesting or transformational.
And so I understand that in that process, at some point, you did manage to lose weight, which quite often, of course, is very emotionally related, etc. So at what point did you decide to, two questions, in fact, because you will decide which one is first, because I don't know in which order it appeared. Did you come across shadow work then already before setting up a business, or did you decided to set up your business and you came across shadow work afterwards?
Good question. Yes, the discovery of shadow work and my growth happened before I stepped into the role of transformational facilitator. I was I'm still an acupuncturist. I was in the healing arts, doing work for people to help them feel good physically. And then when I started doing all my transformational work and I discovered shadow work, because I had already been doing the therapy and all the things to get comfortable, working on letting go of the weight, doing the emotional healing. But when I discovered shadow work and then embraced it and saw the value of it for me, that's when I said, I must learn this. And then I said, I must do this. This is profound, powerful work. It changes lives. And so, yes, that was the journey to where I am now with the work.
So before setting up your business with shadow work, you already had your business as an can you say it for me? Acupuncturist.
That's good. Hard to spell it too.
No, it's for me. It's easier to spell than I really can see it. It's just all of a sudden I went like, oh, how do I say that? So you did set up a complete separate business for that, for the shadow work, or because you say that you still do the acupuncture as well?
I was mostly doing the raising my kid thing. So my acupuncture practice was never like a big focused main thing.
Okay.
I've been running women's workshops and supportive circles for many, many years, for over 25 years. So I was already in the holding space and creating circles and doing workshops all along.
Okay.
The acupuncture was never a full-blown business. Well, there were moments, but basically I was doing the home thing, bringing up my child and taking care of, all of that. And frankly, my husband made good money, so I didn't have to focus on creating this business. I took care of my kid, and I volunteered a lot by going to weekends to support women's growth. And then what happened was 3 years ago, actually 3 years ago this week, frankly, my son moved out. He started his life. And I suddenly was in this place of, well, what do I want to create for myself? My acupuncture practice was a trickle. I had not put a lot of energy into it. So I was thinking, well, I could put all my energy into the acupuncture business, or I could just start all over, which would have been the same with the acupuncture. Let me start all over with my passion. So people still find me for acupuncture. I still have some regular patients, but that's not my focus. So in a way, I just started completely fresh.
So it was a point of reinvention.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Reinvention, beginning, new stage of life.
Crossroads.
Coming back to like, what am I really calling? What am I being called for? What kind of life am I wanting for myself, and how can I serve? And I really sat with that and began to design the next chapter of my life.
So how did you go along to do that?
How did I what?
How did you do that, redesign your life?
Well, I found out very quickly that I didn't know much about business. I had all these great skills. I'd been helping people for so many years with the coaching, but not as a business. And so I started taking classes and realized, wow, I really have no clue how to take my gifts and let people know about it and actually turn that into an income flow. So I hired a business coach, someone like you, and said, help me, help me figure this out. I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't learn the nuts and bolts of how to run a business, how to let people know what I do, and invite them in to the possibilities of an amazing life, of a healed life.
What you mentioned is interesting. I had that discussion yesterday again, and I keep having it. How often people are just going after their passion and completely forget that running a business, well, it's a whole set of different skills. And if on top of it, which may not have been your case, they come from a corporate world where there was this whole environment where everything was readily available for them, the systems and the tools and the HR department and the finance department and everything, and the photocopier and the secretaries and etc. So they had everything into place. Now all of a sudden they have to do it all themselves, and the challenge is that you when you start a business, you're tempted to want to do everything on your own because you believe that you don't have money, where in fact you should be focusing on really what you are good at and outsource the rest. That will definitely accelerate your business.
As we speak, I have this lovely woman in the Philippines doing all my social media, working on my website, promoting my show next week. Absolutely. What am I good at, and do that? And what can other people do that I don't have to do, and have support? And the other thing is some people are really great at the business, but have in the inner dialogue that is
the other one.
So the reverse is so true too. So that's one of the big things I learned in the last few years is I had worked on the inner dialogue. I was ready, but didn't know the nuts and bolts. And now I'm working with a lot of people that have the nuts and bolts, but have the inner dialogue saying, you really can't make that kind of money, or you don't have the right to move up the ladder or start your own business.
Yeah, I did write
the puzzle.
I did write a blog post about that. I don't remember exactly, but a few months ago, where I was saying that the end result was the same. They're on the verge of a burnout in essence, for two different reasons. Either they went for the passion, but were not business savvy, and then it doesn't work, or it's the other way around. They are business savvy, but they completely lose themselves in the process because they, as you say, they did not take the time to step back, reflect, who am I and what do I want, and etc. So the end result is the same. They come from two opposite routes, but So tell us more about. Sorry, so go ahead.
No, I was going to say there's this other component of just energy. Someone can know the nuts and bolts, and they can go to a networking meeting, say all the right things, have all the packaging, and it not work for them because something that we don't see, the energy, the connection, that self-assurance, people sniff that out. People, maybe not on a conscious level, will not feel as comfortable or as trusting of these people because there's something that they're sending out of, you don't pick me, I don't know, I'm not that good. Meanwhile, here they are working their butt off to be successful.
And I definitely can confirm that, because that is something that I have experienced myself. I have been really struggling for quite a long time without identifying that was the thing, but with visibility issues. I was afraid to be visible, and with an imposter syndrome problem. So I was really thinking that, people would discover how bad I was in reality. And so there I was.
Don't tell anybody.
No, we won't tell anyone. And so I was walking around, sending out those counter signals, as you say, and that is exactly why it is so important to do the inner work, and that is something that has completely changed since I did that myself. Of course, I can totally relate.
That imposter syndrome, yes. And, you know, I work with people to lower the volume on those voices that say, if people really knew that you don't know everything, or there are other people that know more than you, don't even try. I mean, those voices, in my opinion, they don't go away. You know, we're human beings, we're embodied.
They never will, really.
But we can lower the volume. We can make them quiet. You know, we can hear them, and that's the first step, is going, oh, there's that voice. You know, and to be able to dance with those voices more, so that they don't take us out. They don't have us feel so inadequate that we aren't functioning. Where we have such a sense of purpose and desire to help and be who we are, and that when those voices show up, it's like, you know, it's like a little squeak, you know, it's a little mouse, and we can handle it and still live our life fully.
Yeah, it's that, hey, you're there again, hi. No, not today, thank you.
Yeah, why are you here? Do we need to have a talk again? Yeah, exactly.
So what have you found, so other than the business side that you already described, what have you found most challenging in your journey?
Balance, like everybody, you know, everyone talks about the balance. Certainly as entrepreneurs, the balance of focusing work and finding time to handle everything. A lot of us, and I'm assuming you're in the same categories, but I'll speak about myself. You know, a lot of entrepreneurs that work at home, we don't have necessarily a set schedule. And so if we don't have a set schedule, it can feel very overwhelming sometimes and kind of scattered. At least that's what happens with me. So the biggest challenge I've had is to chunk my time, where, okay, for the next few hours, I'm focusing on my work. I'm not going to go play with my dog or sit and have a cup of coffee on my, you know, on my porch. And yet if I need to, you know, have that moment, yes, but to really manage time management, big time, because I'm pretty good at handling the inner dialogue. If I feel something coming up for me that feels challenging in the emotional arena, I reach out to people like you, my friends, you know. But yeah, just finding that inner balance of time and passion, and allowing myself to not work, you know, 12, 15 hours a day because I feel like I have to, you know. So I would say that's the biggest challenge I've had.
Yeah, that is, well, I am definitely struggling with it myself. However, I like any person who is extremely good at something, but however, still is being challenged. So typically I do bring a lot of organization and structure and focus and discipline to my clients, but it doesn't mean that I know exactly you know, how to do it 100% of the time. That's not true. I think that the key there is when you realize that you've gone off track, that something is not working for you. I always say, don't beat yourself up. You're a human being. It's absolutely normal. But instead of focusing on the, oh, I did it again, or it doesn't work, or whatever, ask yourself, what can you set into place so that you get on track again? And just keep coming back, and that's fine. And that's how you will be moving in the right direction. And I think that on top of it, we live in a society which, as again, is particularly true for entrepreneurs because we have so much to do ourselves also, that is adding even more, and at some point we just have to agree that there are only 1440 minutes in a day, and that if you want to add something, you will have to take something else out of your schedule. So it is a matter, coming back to the discussion we had earlier on, it's a matter of making conscious choices. And for that, you need to be very clear about the why you're doing things, what your objective is.
And, you know, a couple of things that you said. I mean, you know, yes, we're not perfect. We're human beings. So we get distracted. There are days when maybe we're not feeling physically as well. And like last I told you, my dog, for some reason, in the middle of the night, barked a couple of times, you know, like he was coughing, not barked. He coughed. so I had to, I got up. I'm like, make sure he's not choking on something, so I actually feel really good today, but I could have so easily felt a little tired.
Of
I mean,
course.
we're living beings. The other thing is awareness. Awareness that if we do slip and fall, if we do get off track, that we notice it, but it doesn't derail us. It's like,
Exactly.
okay, we're off track.
Yeah.
It's a moment in time. Let's have compassion that somehow we got distracted or pulled, and come back to what it is that we're really wanting for ourselves and others. If we have that focus and that pulling toward that whether it's a goal or a purpose in life, I like to think of purpose that has us on the beam, that it's just a moment in time, and that all that self-loathing and whipping ourselves of, oh, I shoulda, coulda, I mean, then we just stay stuck in the misery, and that doesn't serve anybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So time is stretching quickly. Tell us, before we don't have a chance anymore, tell us where people can find you.
Sure. Well, I've been called the inner critic tamer. I help tame people's inner critic. So I got the domain innercritictamer.com. So that's a nice, easy way to find me.
Easy.
And on the website, you could also pick up my ebook for free, which is How to Tame Your Inner Critic. And in this book that has a lot of content, but also as a workbook, I guide people through an exercise where it's 10 steps that help them really have a relationship with their inner critic. It's not about getting rid of it. It's about finding a way for that voice to work with us and not derail us. And so it's 10 powerful steps to unleash your soul purpose. That's the title, How to Tame Your Inner Critic with the 10 Powerful Steps. And it's free, so people can pick that up and start this relationship with this, what we've thought is our enemy. We can befriend. It's a wild journey. It actually can happen.
I suddenly remember, I don't remember who did that, but someone at some point said to me at the time when, I had this imposter syndrome, so the voices were there. And somebody said to me that I should send them on an extended holiday on a very far away island. And I remember that I went to the world map, to find an island, where no one can go, so that I would not be tempted to go on holiday there myself.
Oh my goodness, that's hysterical.
So I sent them on holiday, extended holiday, and said that there was no need to come back. So that was a funny exercise to do. So
that is funny. Yeah.
What are your next steps? What do you have any particular envies? Any development that you have in the pipe, or are you just moving forward with the flow?
You got choppy there. Are you asking what programs I have? I'm not sure.
No, I was asking what is your next step? What do you further want to develop into, or have you reached a point?
Oh, okay, great. Yes. Well, again, it's the unfolding and the journey and following the breadcrumbs. I really want to travel and bring this work country internationally too. So bring me to
London.
I really want to spread the message that healing is possible, and the voices that can have us feel horrible and sabotage our dreams can quiet down, and we can feel empowered and really shift inside. It's not just up here, but in our bodies. We can actually fire. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm workshopping a workshop right now called the Shadow Shift Experience, and I'm creating vehicle to take on the road and share and do some retreats and bring people together. And that's the next step for me.
So you are talking about group work, but you work one-on-one with your clients, obviously.
Yeah, there's something so fantastic about being in a group. I love workshops and feeling energy and having people also see that they're not alone and feel that connection. I even have a group that's starting in a couple of weeks where we're virtual and we get to see each other and feel each other and do the work and also have some one-on-one. And there's something to be said, as you know, when you sink in with another individual for a certain amount of time. where we can really get to know what's going on, the inner workings of our client, that we can get some deep transformation, sustainable transformation. There's nothing to replace one-on-one. That's my opinion. Workshops are great, transformational, but at the end of the day, if somebody really wants change, long-lasting change, you got to dive in one-on-one with somebody that knows some good stuff.
No, absolutely. I love the synergy, the group work as well. But as you say, each has its own value. It's absolutely. Plus, it gives us diversity. It gives us diversity in our work as well. Not only
because I love to be able to do all the different things, and everybody learns differently too. So some people will feel more comfortable in a group and have that go inside of them and percolate in a different way than if it's just one-on-one. I love doing both. I love creating the group environment, and then when people are ready to take that next step to dive in a little deeper.
Junie, before we go, do you have any final tip or tips you would want to give to the listeners if they want to start their business and go after their dreams or reinvent themselves?
Yeah. Well, as I say to a lot of people, as I said before, awareness is so important that if something is not working, to ask yourself, what is it that's getting in your way? You know, what is it that you're really wanting, and what's getting in your way? And is it something inside, you know, some old messaging that is telling you that something is not good enough inside of you to have what you want? I mean, to tune inside, not to just keep going, but to tune inside what's really happening, to take our, some time, some breath, some spaciousness, create some spaciousness with ourselves so that we can really have a different perspective on what's really happening. Because working harder and longer does not necessarily equal success, as we know.
Absolutely.
So just to slow the process down, to really go inside and ask what's your heart's journey? What is your soul truly calling for? And what's happening that's keeping you from living in alignment with that? And that's a great place to start. And then reaching out to people like you and me, or whatever it is that they're finding is in their way, to get the help and support so they can really live in alignment with what they're so desiring.
And it makes such a difference.
Yes, it certainly does. Yeah.
Junie, thank you so much. I have loved every minute of this interview with you, but that's not so surprising. And so just for our listeners, if you too want to reinvent your life, you can have a complimentary reinvention discovery consultation with me by booking a session on my website at www.anyesvanrhijn.com, and that is ANYESVANRHIJN.com. See you in the next interview. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.